I want to transition now to the next part of this morning meeting and introduce Stuart Lynne, a data scientist from the Two Sigma Data Clinic. Just a little bit about what Stuart's going to be talking about. He's going to be presenting tomorrow on a tool that was actually unveiled at Open Data Week 2020, so just about a year ago. And the tool called Scout was created in some collaboration with Mayor's Office of Data Analytics and provides a new way for people to explore open data. So I'll let him explain it. Stuart, take it away.
Yeah, hi everybody. Thanks for having me here this morning. I'm super excited to be chatting to you all now, and also hopefully seeing some of you at our workshop tomorrow. So yeah, my name is Stuart Lynne. I'm a data scientist and engineer. I work at the Two Sigma Data Clinic, which is the pro bono arm of Two Sigma, and we kind of operate as a legal clinic, as a sort of similar to a legal clinic, where our organization is a lot of data scientists and engineers who mostly work on financial stuff most of the time. But what we do is we partner with organizations who are resource constrained, so nonprofits, NGOs, academics, basically anybody working in any field from education to the environment to whatever. And we kind of scope out projects with them, kind of in a similar way that DataKine does, if you're familiar with them. And then we kind of staff those projects with engineers and people within Two Sigma to kind of help out those organizations. So if you have a project you're interested in doing and you need an extra pair of data science hands or extra pair of engineering hands, reach out to us because we may be able to help you do that. But the thing I'm going to be talking about tomorrow, and actually we have another talk later today at 11 to 12, which I'll talk about briefly as well, is kind of the other part of what we do, which is our core team kind of work on building out open source tools and open source analyses that we can put out there that we think are just going to be beneficial to the community as a whole. So the talk we have today, which is between 11 and 12, is a project we did coming out of a hack day we did internally this past year. And originally what we were doing is we were looking at accessibility on the subway system. So we were trying to map out connections between platforms and entryways and everything else throughout the entire subway system to basically give a better idea of what it looks like to move through the subway system using elevators and sort of escalators and things like that, to see how accessibility for people who are disabled kind of was changing in the subway and how we could make it better. We were working on that for a few months, and then the pandemic hit, and so we had to kind of we ended up deciding we were going to switch tracks a little bit. We had done a lot of work in parsing out the GTFS feed, which if you don't know it, is the kind of the feed of when all the trains are arriving and leaving in the city, and also looking at some of the turnstile data. And so we decided to kind of pivot there a little bit and develop, take that work and try and develop a metric that would help us estimate the number of people on trains every day in New York. So being able to basically select a start point and end point for your journey, a time, and then see how many people we thought were going to be on the train, using a combination of the GTFS feed, which tells us when trains arrive and leave, and then also the turnstile data, which tells us how many people we think are waiting for a train at any given time. So my colleague Kaushik will talk a lot more about that from 11 to 12 today. I'd encourage you guys all to check it out. It's been pretty fun. But what I'm going to be talking about tomorrow is our tool Scout, which is one of the other things we do at the Data Clinic. We build these kind of open source tools and put them out there. And we've developed 3 of them today, and one called Neighborhoods, which was presented at Open Data Week 2 years ago. 2 years ago, and that's really kind of like a spatial mapping tool, so being able to find patterns and spatial data within New York City. We built a tool called Smoosher, which we haven't really talked about at Open Data Week, but is pretty fun. It's to do with trying to condense down categories of things in data sets. So, if you've used the 311 data set before, you'll know that if you look at the reason for the call, that goes in there, there's a million categories. There's just an insane number of categories. And what Smoosher allows you to do is kind of very quickly use your own guidance and also a little bit of machine learning to condense those categories down into a much more meaningful, manageable set of categories. And you can do that for any data set that has categorical data. We used it on a project where we were trying to consolidate data from about 5 different cities. Name one data from about 5 different cities across the US and try and create one clean data set for all of those, which you can hear about as well. But tomorrow I'm going to be talking about Scout, which I think is one of our most exciting tools. It's as Liam mentioned, it was built last year in collaboration with the New York Mayor's Office of Data Analytics. We kind of partnered with them to try and really think through kind of what some of the pain points and kind of wish lists were for the Open Data Portal, things that we would like to see as a community on the Open Data Portal, and really kind of decided to try and build a tool to help us explore and prototype some of those ideas. And so what Scout is and you can check it out at scout.tsdataclinic.com. It's a tool that basically is a very thin layer on top of the Open Data Portal that tries to add kind of superpowers to the Open Data Portal. So the first superpower we tried to add was recommendations for data sets. So on Scout, what you can do is if you go and find a data set you're used to or really know very well, and you click through to its description on the tool, what it will do is it will recommend you other data sets you might want to check out as well. And so it does that in two ways. One is that it looks to see data sets that have a thematically similar content to the one that you're interested in. So if you're looking at say maybe traffic accidents, it will also maybe recommend you like data sets about vehicle violations or street closures. So things that might bring in a wider context to what you're doing. And then the other way it tries to recommend data sets is by looking inside the data set and looking at the columns that are in the data set and trying to find you other data sets that might be joinable with that data set. So like other data sets that share a similar column with similar IDs, again, in such a way that you could maybe find a data set about school test results for maths and then go away and find all the other data sets that have information about those schools as well. And the whole kind of like impetus for this was to kind of make it easier to find all the relevant data you wanted to about a given topic within the Open Data Portal. So we launched that at Open Data Week last year. We've had a fairly good usage out of it. But then actually, like I think Open Data Week last year was like maybe what 2-3 days before the shutdown, like the shutdown really hit in New York. And one day, oh my God, yeah, it's insane. I can't believe this has been a year already. But but we kind of like we had a lot of plans there to run workshops and open sessions to kind of get feedback on the tool and to kind of like evolve it over the course of the last year. But of course, that was really hard to do this past year. So what we've been doing is trying to improve the tool by widening it actually from New York City to other open data portals. So now we index about 140 open data portals across the US, not just New York City, but New York State. We've got New Jersey Health, and then everywhere from California to like the national agencies in the city. And so we're able to now take it from just a New York centric tool to like a US centric tool. And what that means for New Yorkers is that if you're looking at a given data set, say for example, 311 data or 911 data in New York, it will recommend you data sets from other cities and other municipalities that have similar content. And this is really useful if you're trying to get a broad overview or do comparisons between New York City and somewhere else, which is a really interesting exercise, right? If you want to know whether noise complaints in New York City are atypical for major cities, you want to find other data sets that have noise complaints. And so the tool really helps you do that. And so we're going to be demoing that functionality tomorrow. We're going to be running a workshop then, which kind of like is designed to give us some feedback on that functionality and also to kind of think through other features we might want on a tool like Scout. So what other superpowers do we want to have around the Open Data Portal? And we're going to be testing out two ideas there. One is we really want to figure out a way to bring in related content to a data set. So if you're looking at, say, the 311 data set, on Scout, we really want to be able to show you every single GitHub repo that has used 311 data set that might have useful scripts or useful starting points for you to like grab and start using as code. And we want to like list all the projects, all the dashboards that are online that gives you insight into the 311 data set, like in different contexts. And we want to do that for every data set on the Open Data Portal and then help kind of curate not just the data set, but all the tools that are available to work with that data set as well. So we're going to be talking about that like functionality and getting people's feedback. And then the other functionality we are going to be talking about and trying to get people's feedback on is the ability for us to kind of create community curated crosswalks for IDs within the Open Data Portal. So again, if you've used a lot of the open data sets, like for example, say the education open data sets, you'll know that like even though there might be a column called school ID, the way that the schools are referred to in that column might be very, very different from one data set to the next. So we might see, school IDs having a slightly different format or different name or different, even in the project we did with the crowding on the subway, we found that there was like about 20 or 30 different ways to refer to a particular station, the subway station in New York. So it's very hard to take these data sets and use them to join together to create like a more valuable data set. And so we're really interested in ways that we can basically host and provide tools to build community-owned crosswalks. So for any given data set that has IDs about a certain thing, what is the mapping from those IDs to kind of a canonical clean set of IDs that can be used to join it with any other data set within the Open Data Portal? And we want that to be something that's community curated because it's too big for any one organization to do it and community owned. And so that's the other thing we're going to be sort of talking about and trying to sort of prototype. And then finally, we're going to be asking people just for like feedback on any other pain points they have with like working with open data or working with the Open Data Portal to try and get some other ideas about things we can build into this tool to make everybody's life easier in New York.
Thank you so much, Stuart.